Hello, everybody. I'm Rickwitsken, and this is Pickleball. On today's show, we welcome Jack Munro. Jack is a professional pickleball player dominating the APP Tour. In 2025, he and his partner, Will Howes, captured 7 gold medals, holding both the most medals of any player this season and record for most consecutive gold medals in APP history. Beyond the court, Jack is one of the sport's leading creators, reaching over 10 million people per month across social media with high-quality, entertaining, and instructional content that's helping shape the next generation of pickleball players. Jack, welcome to the show. We're excited to have you on.
Thank you very much. What an intro. Dude, it's I haven't heard that one in a while, so it's been amazing. I did like a podcast at the beginning of this year, but then after that haven't really done as many pods.
Well, you are an incredible human being, but certainly a great player. I've known you for quite some time, and you started early. So let's start at the beginning, Jack. I know you hold the record as the youngest player to reach the 5-0 status, I believe at 12 years old. And I'd just like to know, what were you doing before you were 12, and how did you jump into pickleball at such an early age?
So pretty unique story. I'll try to keep it, as summarized as possible, but I played 7 years of baseball growing up. By the time I was 10, I was traveling for Team USA and loved, spring training, literally just did everything baseball for those 7 years growing up. And as soon as I was 10, I threw my arm out pitching one weekend. And then from there, I found pickleball from my dad at our local, public club, and just started dinking around while I was in a sling over there. And so after those 3 months went by and my growth plate recovered, then I just stayed with pickleball and was immediately hooked. And just, from age 10 to 13, I was just all in on pickleball. That was my sport. I did independent study with it through middle school and just started traveling and doing all of that. And it's cool seeing some of the juniors, back then that I played junior nationals with and all of that, still be on tour now. A few examples are Eric Onsens, you have Will Sobeck, you even have Annalie Waters was there back then. And so, yeah, in October of oh my gosh, I forgot. In October of 2016 or something, I got the email from USAPA, which was who did all of the ratings back then, not Duper, not anything like that. And they emailed me and promoted me to 5-0. And so I was the youngest ever USAPA approved 5-0. And so you couldn't play these tournaments. So you'd play 4-0s. And then if you start winning 4-0s, then USAPA would literally send you an email and bump you up to a 4-5. So then you can start playing those tournaments. And so that was super fun. And what's also unique about the story is I was playing with a sling with my dominant hand, my right hand. So then as soon as I found pickleball and started hitting with my left hand, I took the sling off and then still felt more natural to stay with my left hand. So to be quite honest, I developed both. And so that's why right now I'm ambidextrous. I call it artificial ambidexterity.
Well, that's awesome. Obviously, I've seen you play a lot, and I know you're skilled on both sides, but kind of sticking with that growth as a 12-year-old player into 5-0, I'm really curious because I know this was going on in California where you're playing different players of higher level. How did the adults embrace you, or did you feel like some adults were really warm and fuzzy and wanting to bring you in, and others kind of wanted to keep you out because you might be moving into their high-level player territory?
Yeah, no, solid questions. The biggest thing was the social part of it. That was the toughest part. That's why, that's why people always say Jack, you're an old soul, or Jack, you're so mature. And it's just because growing up, I wasn't around. I went to middle school and high school and stuff like that. So I'm at least half normal. But I mean, when I played my sport, I was mostly around, people definitely in their 30s plus, 40s plus, 50 plus, especially back then. So that was more of the friction, was the social friction. In terms of the talent, of course, people would break paddles and snap paddles because they were annoyed that they lost to this 11-year-old with a squeaky voice, So I think that was, some people were definitely annoyed by that. But there was I developed a solid community where I grew up in Thousand Oaks and Simi Valley. If you check out Pickleball Central's interview with me back then, and where it was like I Heart Pickleball, and the entire community like is just was so welcoming to me, and that's what made it so unique. Was it, you know, in 2015, 2016, there's this community of people that accepted a random 11-year-old to just come play at their local courts, and no matter if, you know, and I grew up the ranks. I started on the bottom court. There were 4 courts. I like dreamed of being on that top court, which was probably around like 4 or 5 level. And so then just slowly but surely I moved up the courts, and you know, we hung out, grabbed food with these guys afterwards. And so it was more than just a surface level relationship. And so that's actually one of the big pluses that I have seen even now with pickleball, is just that social embrace of you know, of a kid or somebody who just definitely stood out like a sore thumb.
You know, as I've observed you over the years, you've just struck me as somebody that, you're right, seems like an old soul, but at the same time, maybe appreciates the forefathers before you that helped elevate pickleball. And I even feel like, in some sense, you care about senior pro pickleball and what's going on, which is so far away from where you are in the world. But I just sense an appreciation about the entire scope of pro pickleball, senior pro, open pro alike, and all of pickleball. So kudos to you, because, you know, I don't perceive that from every open pro. So thanks for that. You obviously stated a good friend of mine, David Wells, or at least you were playing on his court when I was there in Chicago. We didn't quite cross paths, but I certainly have seen you at tournaments, and we've had some good communication. But sticking with you, like, about the journey of going pro, like, what age did that happen, and what was that decision like?
So I mean, I don't consider back then there was even anything as there weren't really pros back then. Like, even if you look at Ben Tyson or like these, you know, Kyle Yates, like these first wave of pros were still like, they still had jobs and were doing this on the weekend, and, you know, for a $300 check if they won gold, you know, at like these local tournaments. But then as soon as tours started popping up, that's when it became like true professional. I think even when I was 5-0 playing when I was 12, 13 years old, I obviously never really thought of myself as a true pro, because there still was, while I would play, you know, while I would play at nationals and stuff with the Zane Afflecks or the Kyle Yates or the Dave Weinbachs and stuff like that, there was still like a slight skill gap. But yeah, I would definitely say I was like the highest level amateur back then. As soon as, let's say, I became pro, more so around like 19 years old, once I started doing well in 5-0s. And in my opinion, what I consider pro, I think there's multiple different ways to do it, or like define it. I think the 2 easiest ones are anybody above a 6-0 duper, or able to make main draw consistently based off of points. So those are like my 2 ways to define the word pro. And so I'd say I started doing that when I was around 19. I did that on APPs, did that on PPAs, and then obviously leaned more towards the APP side of things. Still played MLPs and all of that, but I'd say around 19 is when it started getting legit. Like, paddle companies reached out, and it became more of a business than it did just a fun weekend activity.
Well, I feel like I've seen you more in the APP, like you said, but I believe you also played for the MLP in the Chicago Slice. And I'm curious what your direction is now. Is it going to be going in both directions, or do you feel like you're kind of staying with one tour versus the other? And MLP, what's your desire with all of that?
Yeah, of course, I wish I could lean both directions, but it's pretty tough when, you know, one of these guys wants you exclusively. So I've loved my time with the APP, and, you know, they've treated me like family, and I've remained loyal to them. I mean, my day one tournament was a next gen, was winning next gen, and that was arguably my first breakout moment before anything else on the pro side of things. But of course, like, even last year I played 5 PPAs. I made 3 quarterfinals, 1 semifinal, and like, I loved my experience with MLP. It was you know, it was pretty fun. Uh, you know, at least like surface level, I did enjoy it. It was good. That's exactly what, you know, rose my duper up. It showed me that it can compete with those players on that tour as well. You know, I took the Chicago Slice to runner-up in the Challenger division, got him promoted up to Premier. Um, but yeah, now I'm like fully leaned in with the APP, and I like it. Like, dude, it's amazing. Quality of life is good. I know what I get out of these tournaments. Um, the people behind it, I truly trust in the door. Like, I mean, I love the teams behind it. I think they have their heads on straight, and as I mentioned with quality of life, I'm still able to play, some collegiate stuff or travel internationally, especially now that APP is doing the Global Alliance. So I like this. Like before the end of the year, I'm trying to hit Vietnam, Cayman, Fort Lauderdale, of course, and then India. And of course, if I went the other route and went PPA, none of that would be doable. You'd have to play their tours internationally exclusively. So I like it. You definitely have to commit to building your own brand more and invest more into yourself more. But that's something that obviously I'm more than willing to do and have done.
You are a unique individual, and I think it's really neat that you're still involved in college pickleball. Can you talk a little bit about your collegiate pickleball affiliation and where that's going?
Yeah. So I founded Longhorn Pickleball Club here in Austin at UT Austin in September of 2023. And since then, we've done over 30 events, hosting social nights and duper nights, and then also competing and having a competitive wing that goes out and plays these tournaments on a regional and national level. Our team is actually quite solid. In fact, we won the Duper Collegiate National Championships last year. And so we are the reigning Duper Collegiate National Champions, which is super cool. So obviously, we have a pretty good team. We have a girl named Zoya Khan who signed PPA, really good, like 5'5" plus players named Eli Trumeter. You have me, and then we also have another good grad student as a girl. So, I mean, our team rocks. And I mean, now we hosted a fundraiser this Thursday. What our social nights are bread and butter for all of our members that are just normal UT kids that just want to go out and, have fun, mess around. And so there we probably get around like 100 RSVPs for 6 courts at Urban Pickleball Club because UT Austin doesn't have courts that they'll allow us to mass book for more than 3 times a semester. So then we just commit to going off campus downtown. There are these rooftop courts called Urban Pickleball Club. And so he's a UT alum. He lets us play there. And so with 6 courts and 100 people, we need to figure out a way for like everybody to just not wait an hour in order to get one game. So what we do is one court is, like a cup pong with pickleball paddles on each side of the court, then, rotate in and out, kind of like a beer pong, but life size. And then on one court, I run a live ball, which, I mean, you're super familiar with that coming from tennis, but like, I mean, the kids love the live ball. We've had like 60 kids in this live ball on one court. They're making like a
Wow.
U or sideline, baseline,
Wow.
sideline. They eat it up, absolutely eat it up. Winners get prizes. We have sponsors. So like last time, our last social, we had Get W, like there, just passing out deodorant and stuff like that. Now we're going to have Poly Market for the next one, and then hopefully past that, a few other cool ones. But so like our next social night is actually going to be everything but a paddle night. So like bring everything but a paddle, like bring a charcuterie board and play with it for the first hour, literally play with the world is your oyster, like a MacBook case, doesn't even matter. And that'll be the first hour. Then I'll run the live ball with that. Then we'll go back to normal pickleball. But the kids love it. It's been a way to grow pickleball, like close to my heart, especially at UT. I know UT's been, semi-reluctant compared to other colleges and college programs, especially since we've won nationals and have showed them that. So we've had to raise our own money and stuff like that. But it's been fun. It's also been my way into meeting friends at UT because travel so much, not often in person for my classes. So I'd feel quite disconnected if I wasn't able to have this outlet.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. I think it's really neat that you're cultivating the desire of kids in a college atmosphere. That's just not something I'm that familiar with, and I'm really glad that you're doing that. Would you say that the way you see your career blossoming is pretty much going to be strictly pickleball?
The goal's no. The goal's to be at least multifaceted enough where like I can play pro, but it's not like why I put food on the table or how I put food on the table. because I understand, and I'm pretty sure you know, like if you roll your ankle, then you're out for more than 6 months. You're kind of screwed. So the goal is to have content be a pretty good angle, even coaching or even say running events, like just having all of that open uh, would be much better than just going all in on pro. It doesn't mean I'm sacrificing my pro career in order to do that. I've been able to juggle all of it and still maintain on top of the pro side of things. But yeah, so I wanna stay pro, and I want to be the best, of course. I just obviously don't want that to be the only function of my brand.
So would you say that for players that are watching us, I've got a 12-year-old that wants to be a pro pickleball player, a 17-year-old here in Indianapolis as well. Would you say that they should consider online schooling even through the university in order to accommodate all of their travels, especially as we kind of get more towards the international flavor?
Yeah, that would be one of the key points that I would stress when talking to them if they had the talent for pickleball and their parents were on board and they at least it's reasonable for them to go pro. Uh, is to find a school that allows you to not always be in person for every class, or like basically, even though you're not a school sponsored sport, you are still able to have some flexibility on what classes you can and can't attend. Because here at UT, all of like my economics program at UT has all been in person, and outside of the electives I've taken online. And so they've been pretty tough, and I wouldn't want that 12 and 17-year-old to have the same issue that I have here. I'd want them to be able to spread their wings and go to an online school, hopefully not sacrifice that much in terms of academics to make it happen. But yeah, I would definitely say find a school that allows that.
I'd like to move into one of the important aspects of our podcast, and that is the signature shot. I think it's pretty obvious which your signature shot would be, but I want you to kind of explain the mechanics behind a signature shot that somebody watching our show would appreciate.
Okay, yeah, I'd say I got a few, but in terms of like a real signature shot that people like actively avoid when playing me, I'd say it's my two-handed backhand speed up. That's uh, my bread and butter. I love it. I've made videos on YouTube about how I hit the dead spot rather than the core, rather than the actual sweet spot. I aim for the top to get more dwell and more spin. I think that's like a key component of my offense. Granted, now that I've switched to a foam paddle, I've been working a lot more out of the air and I felt a lot more comfortable out of the air thanks to these foam paddles that XR has been making. But still, two-handed backhand is the key signature shot, and I think that's I put two fingers on the back of the paddle face, gives me a lot more control. You don't lose as much pronation as you think, if not any. So it basically adds benefits and doesn't subtract from anything. So then why not do it? You see Ben do this now too. Sometimes even Hayden. But yeah, so I like this. It's basically just breaking your wrist. It's just breaking your wrists down, and then your arms are slowly pushing up, but breaking your wrist down and then just pushing through. It's brushing. You're not turning over it. A few people make mistakes when hitting speed ups by turning over it. The only way you should really turn over it is to get around it. Say you're hitting a cross court shot, but I think turning over it's still a pretty bad habit. Um, if you want another more like spicy signature shot, then it's my offhand ATP. So it's switching hands to then hit the ATP instead of hitting a backhand ATP. Then I just switch my paddle to my other hand, and it gives this shoulder route, this arm route, hits it inward on the court rather than a backhand where you're swinging like around the ball. It's extremely tough to hit a backhand ATP without a 2E, which therefore you need your feet set. So I think a lot more people should do it. They should switch hands to hit the ATP because it's honestly like quite an easy mechanic once you learn to time it.
I agree. And I don't know if you've seen me play, but I use my non-dominant hand a decent amount. Certainly, probably the number one senior pro using the non-dominant hand and the lefty ATP on the left side. I feel like that's starting to become pretty commonplace, and I really enjoy that. I'd like to ask you, like, what's your biggest win and moment in pickleball up till now?
There's a few. I mean, first next gen win was my first breakout. We have APP New York 2 years ago when I was supposed to play with Andre Diascu, but last minute, 2 days before the tournament, uh, he couldn't make it for some reason, so then I just teamed up with Mario Barrientos. We never played together, didn't even know who he was until that tournament, and actually ended up beating Will and CJ, ended up winning the entire tournament, and that was my first ever like breakout gold medal moment. Uh, that one, like, adrenaline was so high, and time flies when adrenaline's high, so don't even remember like a lot of it. All I have is pictures. That was a really good breakout, but I'd say the most notable one recently has been in, I believe it was January, February. Uh, I was basically, it was APP Daytona this year, and so I went into the weekend, just staying in close touch with my parents because my grandpa wasn't doing so hot, and then turns out he's in the ICU. And so that Saturday, I'm like FaceTiming him, talking to him, and he's now gone like completely nonverbal. And so all he has while he's lying down in the hospital is just that white box of a TV that's like, like a foot or two wide. And he somehow got the APP. My parents somehow got the APP stream up there. And so he was just watching that the entire
Wow.
day. And then FaceTimed him Saturday night because I made Championship Sunday, both for both mixed and men's doubles. And he, he couldn't say anything, but he was just smiling, and I knew that that said more than like 1,000 words. And so after that, I then call my dad separately, and dad's like, "Yeah, I don't know how long he's gonna be in here for. He can't even talk. He's like struggling a lot. He like forgot who I was." But all of this. So then Sunday, I'm dealing with like some health issues as well. Have to take a medical timeout in Championship Sunday, and I end up pushing through, beating Will in mixed, and then winning men's, and that was like the most important moment of my life because I actually FaceTimed him right afterwards. He's like smiling, so happy. My parents are happy, and I'm on FaceTime having the like literally probably the best moment of my life. And then wake up Monday, dad calls me in the morning, says, "Hey, he passed away in his sleep overnight." And I didn't view that as like a sad moment. I viewed that as like I did something to make him proud enough where he's floating up like extremely happy, and like he's just super proud. So that's how I viewed it. But that was probably the most important tournament for me. It wasn't as much of a breakout as it was just like an emotional success for me. Especially with my grandpa. So that's why the only pin post I have on my Instagram is actually that tournament with my grandpa.
That's amazing, and I really, really appreciate you sharing that. I don't know if you can see this logo, wristband, Ripskin. That's my brand, and that stands for rest in peace for my brother Todd, who died. And so it's rest in peace. And then my last name's Witsken. So I can tell you that whether I'm running a camp or playing a tournament, or even in the tennis world, which I still coach there as well, to honor him and his impact on me, even running the NPL, everything I do kind of is in honor of him. And my nephew Ben Shelton, who I'm sure you've heard of, his middle name is Todd, and it's really fun for me to go to Wimbledon or, watch Ben win a Series 1000 Master Series, and just to see that kind of him doing amazing things, but his middle name's Todd, and it's just like I'm living almost a spiritual life of pickleball, playing, coaching, watching my nephew. I feel like I'm really lucky. And, to hear a young man like you understand the value of your grandpa and to know that he was able to be alive in those last incredible moments of your, difficult trial and tribulation to prevail. I mean, that's just really awesome, man. And I I applaud you for having the awareness of the impact, not only on you and your life that your grandpa had, but just your story. Because I know when my brother was given 6 months to live, um, then in that 6 months time, my sister and Todd's best friend, Brian Sheldon, they started to fall in love. And so you have a really difficult situation, terminal illness, and out of that created a kind of a matrimony. So it really gives people hope that are in tough spots, but also to keep the memory alive is so important. I'm sure there's something you'll do or you do that'll continue to remember your grandpa throughout your career, which is great.
Yeah, for sure.
Now,
Like, I mean, his last name, or sorry, his first name is Jack as well. So
hmm,
I was named after him. And even right here, I got this box on my desk, and all this is his
um,
stuff, like from his Letterman, a bunch of his like running medals and stuff.
that's so cool.
So yeah, he's always chilling here. Uh, but yeah,
That's great.
I'm glad that we're in the same boat with that, because I think moments like these are more important than any breakout.
Well, you're a high character individual, and I think that what I've seen, and I'm lucky enough to be at right the forefront of top pro tennis and top pro pickleball. I really like the character of the top pro tennis players that I know and the top pro pickleball players that I know, and I feel like a lot of times it's the players that are doing the best are those that have the highest level of character, and so I see you in that vein and light as well. And I want you to just have an amazing career. Jack, I just want to go ahead and close with one final question with you, and that is just the future of pickleball. Obviously, in your young career, but fairly long career, you've seen everything from $200 and $300 checks at the pro level, and to now obviously being monetized both nationally and internationally. What do you see with the growth of pickleball and how it evolves in the next, say, 5 or 10 years?
Ah. I guess the question that I want answered, that I have an opinion on, but we need to see, is what's going to happen first? Pickleball being NCAA or pickleball being in the Olympics? Personally, I think like we already have the Pickleball World Cup, which is helping towards pushing it towards the Olympics, but I want collegiate pickleball to have a legitimate pipeline to the pro side, as well as also its own tour that provides kids with not only like competition, but scholarships and brand deals and eyeballs and all of that. And that's kind of what I'm trying to create here with Longhorn Pickleball Club. And I think collegiate pickleball is super important. We've seen ever since COVID, the younger demos fall in love with the sport. So I think, we just need to keep capitalizing on that. I also think, going back to, the Olympics, international pickleball is blowing up. It blew up this year. And we've had more successes than failures, which has been great. And moving on to next year, APP with the Global Alliance. Now you have tournaments in Australia and England and Vietnam that all count towards APP points in their rankings. Same with PPAs. PPA has now, PPA China, or all of this stuff that once again creates a global tour rather than a US tour, which I think is which I think is much needed, because there's a lot of talent in these other places that, have had to come to these tournaments in the US and get sometimes special treatment in order to compete well. And it's very costly for them. It's very costly for them to come over here. So I think that's going to be cool. I'm like really looking forward to playing these, not always playing on home turf, and like going and not only traveling the world, but, people are going to be cheering on the Indian players when we're in India, or people are going to be cheering on the Vietnamese pro when we're in Vietnam. Like, I think that's going to be a really fun atmosphere, and I'm excited to take part in that.
That's awesome. I was in Australia a year ago, and the term director, Craig Tiley of the Australian Open, he and I were talking, and I was just saying, look, having a pickleball event attached to your big pro tennis event, I just can't think of anything better than one before the other or one after the other. and he sent me an email just a little yesterday, and we're discussing that. But whether it's tennis and pickleball, doing some union type things, or we've seen the rollout court at the Super Bowl and some of these big events, especially events that are international attention-seeking events. I love when I see that. So I love that you're a young man that has a very omniscient and very large perspective on the game. I think the game has been very good to you and I love that we want to give back as well. And I just want you to know that I'm one of your biggest supporters, and I wish you the best, not only in your playing career, but I know you're quite the creator with content and your social media presence. Obviously, we're both coaches and give a lot of different perspectives on how to improve your game and whatnot. For the This Is Pickleball show, we can be found on YouTube, but we also are at the Third Shot Pickleball facility here in Indianapolis. And so on Facebook and Instagram, people can find our show with the Jack Munros and the Andre Descues and so many other participants we've had. How can we help you, Jack, with people locating you and your socials?
I mean, yeah, Instagram's obviously my main hub. That's at the Jack Munro. Same with TikTok. One thing that I would really love to push is my YouTube. I'm trying to crank out like a bunch of cool videos, not only instructional, but also entertainment. I know a lot of people lock up some instruction behind paywalls, and I want to just offer as much as I can for free on YouTube. So a lot of good instruction on there, how to hit the dead spot of the paddle for a speed up if you're an advanced player. I don't want 3-0s doing that. But yeah, and then also some entertaining stuff. Like I've done some Guess the Pro impersonation to me and another pro playing with trainer paddles against some 4-5s or something. But like, it's always fun, and check it out if you want more pickleball stuff that isn't watching a pro tournament.
Awesome. Well, you're very creative and want to keep those wheels churning. And I just want to thank you again for coming on the show today. I'm certain we're going to get a lot of viewership, and it's really neat to see generational connectivity that the sport brings, because I think that's one of the best assets of our sport, as it brings together generations. So thank you for your time. Good luck with all your tournaments and also your creation of unique things at University of Texas. And just know you got a big fan in Rick Witsken, and thank you for being on This Is Pickleball.